The 2013 Farm Forum event in Saskatoon is brought to you by AgriTrend, the power to perform.
Tell us a bit about why are you interested in land rights and all that? Like, where is your background?
So I'm from Smoky Lake, Alberta, a small town northeast of Edmonton, about an hour and 15 minutes. After I graduated from the U of A with my ag degree, I became a surface land agent, negotiating with farmers for interest in their land on behalf of oil and gas companies. So if an oil company was looking to drill a well site on a farmer's land or looking to put a pipeline through it, I would be negotiating for the interest in their land for that reason.
Well, at the end of your presentation, you talked about your passion for continuity, and that's continuity across the Western Prairie provinces?
Yeah, the reason why these Surface Rights Act differ, these acts differ between the provinces, between BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The reason is that there's been developments in Alberta on the oil and gas side of things since the 50s. And it's a lot newer in other provinces. So Alberta has had a lot of time to iron out these kinks, and in my opinion, it's definitely the most landowner-friendly province for compensation and precedence, I guess. But yeah, as you said, my passion is definitely to just make sure that everything is continuity across the West, really,
okay,
on compensation and what landowners should be looking for, and the offers that these oil companies should be offering landowners should be equivalent, in my opinion.
So maybe what we'll do is we'll address those differences as we walk along the pipeline, so to
Sure.
speak. We'll start with an oil and gas company has asked me, can I survey your land? What are some of the things I should consider right at that point? So
basically, it would be a land agent or a surveyor giving you a call to request permission to enter onto your land and survey a development, whether it be a pipeline or a well site. I always tell landowners that the first thing that they should be asking for is to be present for the survey. With directional drilling, there's an opportunity to move this well site into an area that is the least intrusive for your farming operation. You'd be surprised at how much you can move these developments around.
And what's the significance of being there when they do it?
Because that way, a survey generally costs an oil or a gas company about anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000.
Oh my! Yeah.
So
they want to do it right the first time.
Yeah, exactly. You have a lot less success rate in moving it once it's acquired, if you are present for the survey. Then that means that this development is laid out. You can approve it. And the survey is generated into a plan which you would then negotiate the surface lease from, or the pipeline.
And should we get into that plan? How will that fold out? I mean, will we sit down with the oil company and formulate that together, or will
it's a legal document, so it would be standard across the board. A right-of-way agreement in Alberta, as well as a surface lease agreement in Alberta, there's a standard for it. And basically the next step would be, once this survey is generated, they would create a plan, which you then would have, you'd be able to see your quarter section where the proposed development is. They would sit down with you as a farmer and negotiate for that interest in your land, for compensation and requests that you've made, that you've included in the agreement.
So what sort of things can we negotiate?
Well, you'd negotiate compensation. There's a few different things that are kind of set in Alberta. Entry fee is $500 an acre. You would be negotiating adverse effect, what your loss of use number is, general disturbance. And land value wouldn't really be negotiated, but you could make sure that it is fair market value for your land, and negotiate with them if they're offering you something lower than that.
And what sort of things should we make sure are written down?
Basically anything that's additionally agreed to. If you're requesting that a Texas gate be put on at the entrance into this surface lease, if you're requesting some specifics on what the topsoil storage should be on the site, If there's
and the time frame of all these things, like the Texas Gate, what if the site is abandoned and they take it with them?
You can also put that in the agreement that it's the property of the landowner once the lease is either suspended, abandoned, or reclaimed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then once that document is made, we have some time to think about it.
In Alberta, it's also known as the 48-hour waiver. So you would have 48 hours at a minimum to review this document, and that doesn't include holidays.
But we have to tell them.
Yeah, no, it's something that if you choose to waive your opportunity to review this, then you have to sign something.
Oh, I see.
So it is if that 48-hour waiver is not signed, then they must give you at least 48 hours to review it.
And they won't even talk to you in that time?
No, they're, the way the Act reads, or the section of the Land Agents Licensing Act reads, they're not to contact you. Give you some time to review that. That allows you time to look for expertise and fully understand the implications of this agreement.
And that's a minimum? That's
a minimum, yeah.
So
if you needed a week, yeah,
okay.
they'd be more than willing to work with you in most cases.
And how does that differ in Saskatchewan and Manitoba?
In Manitoba, there is legislation, and it's a 3-day waiting period. And in Saskatchewan, they're working with changing the Act right now. I'm not exactly sure at this time how it's going to look, but all I just say for landowners across the board is that just take the time to review it, make sure you understand what you're signing. Don't feel rushed. They're going to give you the time. It's a very reasonable process.
Say we've decided to sign the document. We like where it's going.
Yeah.
What is the next step? What do we have to? What do we have to document and consider after that?
Well, if everything has been agreed upon, then essentially construction could start once you have received a check in your hand. So they're not to enter onto your land until you've been paid the compensation that's been agreed to. So that could be anywhere from the day after you sign the agreement to, it could in some cases be a year down the road. Yeah.
Okay, and then going forward, when can we expect to revisit the document that we initially signed?
Yeah, so annual compensation on surface leases as well differs across the provinces. We'll go from west to east, I guess. British Columbia, you can review every 4 years your annual compensation. But you must request this review from the operator, from the company. In Alberta, the operator is obligated to send you a notification on the 4th anniversary of your 5-year lease. And basically what that letter would just say is that you have the opportunity to review and renegotiate your rental.
But keep track of these dates in Alberta, right?
Yeah, so the Surface Rights Act in Alberta states that the company must give you notice that you can review them. Now, but you have to keep track of these dates because some companies do not send out notifications. Sure. So next in Saskatchewan, you can review every 3 years, and it's 3 months prior to and 3 months after the effective date of the agreement. And the onus is on the landowner in BC as well, or excuse me, in Saskatchewan as well. So just make sure to keep track of your dates. In Manitoba, it's the same 3 years as well. And Alberta is the only province in the West that is obligated, operators are obligated to send out notices to landowners. So in BC, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, most definitely make sure you're keeping track of these dates, but in Alberta as well, because there is a chance that the operator won't send out a notification.
Are there any other big questions that you get from producers?
That probably summarizes it. If I could really give one piece of advice to producers across the West, it would just be to keep track of these dates. I've talked with numerous landowners that don't understand that you do have the opportunity to review your annual compensation, and there's been people that have not got a review on a well site for 15 years. That's a lot of increases in compensation that you could be getting yearly.
But you won't necessarily get those increases, right?
You have to make sure that you give evidence for these. Be prepared. do some documentation, button down your cost of production. And
evidence could be anything from compaction tests to...
Yeah, most definitely. I'd say that work on your production numbers and have an offer that is realistic, ready for when you are negotiating with the land agent.
Mm-hmm. And if people have more questions, you have a Twitter account.
I do, yeah. My Twitter handle is at Ty_Fletcher.
Okay.
And
we're big fans of Twitter.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, we'll find you on Twitter. And,
right on.
Thank you so much. For the presentation.
Thanks very much for the time and the opportunity.
Awesome.
We appreciate what you guys do.
Yeah, talk to you next time.